So I'm sorry it's been so long since I've had an education thing. Got a little burned out after the gut health one, but I finally decided I would tap into resources because there's a lot of people out there that know a lot of things. So I learned about Peak Kitchen. Actually, Kyle had met them first and was really enticed because they're a chef and registered dietitian. That's Leah. They're a duo that kind of came together because I knew nutrition could be done better. And so we had the cooking skills with the background education. So I tapped into them and was like, what ideas do you have? And so hopefully we'll be having them back more than once, but I won't delay any longer. I'll let Leah continue.
So, introduce myself a little bit. My name is Leah. Like she said, I am a registered dietitian. I've been a registered dietitian for a little bit over 20 years. I spent most of my career in hospitals, working with acute care. Sick people who are already sick and trying to get them well. My business partner, Nash, who couldn't be here this evening, and I worked together a couple times in various facilities. And like she said, he's a chef, and both of us wanted to switch over to more of the wellness side of it, the preventative side of it, being able to provide, meals and food to people that, maybe pressed for time, but something that they could grab easy and, and take it with them to go. So what our business is we do a meal prep. So we have meals every week. On Sunday, I change over our website. We have a new menu, and we have 5 or 6 different items that people can choose from. And they order from us, and they come and they're individually packaged, and they can take them with them wherever they would like to go. So that's what we do. There is a little flyer here if you guys want to take them when you go. And then these protein bites, just something fun that we do is just a treat on the side. So when we talked, Jennifer and I talked about different nutrition topics, and we thought we would start, very basic with macros. So I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. So, does anybody know what macros are? It's a thing that I think we hear about quite frequently. Has anybody heard of that before? Yeah? Yep. What do you know about it? Not a lot. So, macros are short for macronutrients, and there are 3. So we have carbohydrates, protein, and fat, all things that we need in our diet. So when I flip to that first page, kind of talks about, what is a macronutrient. So all macronutrients provide us with energy or calories. We're used to seeing energy expressed as calories, like on a nutrition label. If you look at the label of these bites that I have here, the calories are written on here. It's energy. It's what our body uses for energy. And we use each of them in different ways. So the first one that we'll talk about is carbohydrates. What have you guys heard about carbohydrates?
All the time.
What do you hear about it?
They're bad.
That they're bad?
Yeah, and they're delicious.
Okay. What do you hear is bad about them?
They can spike your sugar.
Yep. Yeah, they can. Okay. So there's different types of carbohydrates. So there's sugar that definitely, all carbohydrates will raise your blood sugar. Some do it a little bit better than others, but they are important to our diet. So I think, when we think about carbohydrates, we think about sugar. We think about candy, the sweets, but there are different types of carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates that we find in, whole grains, that we find in vegetables. And with that comes fiber, which is also important to our diet. So look a little bit here. So, we have simple sugars, compound sugars, starches. All of those are carbohydrates, all things that, that we eat in our diet. The average person around the world consumes about 24 kilograms of sugar a year. In North America, it's about double that. So we have sugar in so many things that you're not even wouldn't even think. If you read a nutrition label, it is added to many, many products, things that aren't sweet. It's used as a stabilizer. It's used as a just a more flavor. Processed foods almost always have some sort of added sugar in them. Ketchup has sugar added to it. Peanut butter often has sugar added to it. Many things that, we just don't think about. So it's really important that you look at your nutrition labels and see, see that line that says added sugars. That's what you want to stay away from. There are naturally occurring sugars in fruit that is great for you. But we don't want things added to our food that isn't necessary. So, questions about any of that? Okay. I also mentioned fiber being part of carbohydrates. It's very important to our diets to have fiber. We have two different kinds of fiber, soluble and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber can help lower your cholesterol. It prevents, it lowers the LDL cholesterol, so the bad cholesterol that's floating around in your blood. An insoluble fiber adds bulk to your digestive tract, helps keep you regular, bulk to your stool, and it's just very important for digestion. So, any questions about carbohydrates? Okay. Carbohydrates also provide about 4 calories per gram. So just when you're looking at things. So the next page, was that?
4 calories per gram, regardless of what kind.
Correct. 4 calories per gram. If there's a lot of people that say that you can look at the net carbs, so they'll subtract out the fiber. I think you should count it all when you're looking at the nutrition label. So yes, all carbohydrates provide about 4 calories per gram. Yeah.
And fiber only comes in carbohydrates and not in protein or.
Yes. Yep. Yep. So there's, a lot of diets out there that say that you shouldn't eat carbohydrates. That isn't true. Any diet that tells you that you should eliminate an entire food group is not something that, the type of carbohydrate matters. If you're eating, 100 calories of sugar, or you're eating 100 calories of like a whole grain, what you get from that whole grain, there's, vitamins and fiber and all things that you're missing if you're just eating 100 calories of sugar. So that makes sense? Okay. The next page is just a picture of, a few different kinds of carbohydrates. So types of food, we talked a little bit about, fruits. Vegetables contain carbohydrates. There are more starchy vegetables than others. So, potatoes, a very starchy vegetable, corn, peas, starchy vegetables. But things like broccoli, cauliflower, they also have carbohydrate. They have a lot of fiber in them, all important to our diet. So, questions about carbohydrates? No?
Is there like a certain amount of carbohydrate you should eat each day?
So it depends on the source. That there's different recommendations from different associations. So like the American Diabetes Association, they recommend 50 to 60% of your calories come from carbohydrate. I think that's a little bit high. If you're making your plate of food, one thing that we use is very visual when we're doing some education as dietitians, and if you break your plate up into like, a quarter of it is starch, and a quarter of it is your protein, and then the other side of your plate, half of your plate, is those green leafy vegetables. So the recommendations vary. There's not a number. I actually think that it probably varies per person how much you should have per day, and you just need to find out what feels well for you. So, okay. More questions? Okay. So next one we're going to talk about is protein. Proteins also provide 4 calories per gram. So carbohydrates and protein per gram provide the same amount of calories. Sorry. So proteins are a component of every cell in your body. It's used to build tissue. So your muscles, your bones, your skin, your hair, your nails, everything, that's what protein helps build. I think that we, have heard recently about high protein diets, low carb diets. Again, it depends on your condition. The minimum recommendation for protein is about 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. But if you are, an athlete, if you are strength training, if you are ill, if you have wounds, if you're healing from any sort of surgery, that raises the need for protein in your body. So proteins are a combination of amino acids, and some are essential and some are non-essential. our body uses 22 of those amino acids, and we can make in our bodies all but 9 of them. All of the amino acids are available in protein food, or in animal products, so meats and dairy. And then you can also get protein from some plant sources as well. So like soy is a good source of protein. Beans, legumes are also a good source of protein. Nuts have a little bit of protein in them as well. So those are some, if you choose to eat a plant-based diet or go more plant-based, it's just a great idea to eat a variety of plant-based foods so you can make sure that you're getting all the protein that your body needs. Questions about protein or things that you've heard? 0.8 grams per kilogram, and that's the RDA, so the recommended daily allowance, and all those are just like a baseline. You need minimum this much. So 0.8 grams per kilogram is usually, where we start when we're saying what somebody needs. So, okay.
And I've been teaching for older adults that they need more
Mm-hmm.
In general, not if you have renal issues.
Correct.
But more because it's more difficult to maintain.
Yes, it's very important to maintain that lean body mass, those muscles, and make sure that you're not losing that as we get older. And so having more, is very beneficial. And there is such thing as too much over. If you do too much, it's very hard for us to get too much and sustain that. You have to really, really try. So, but again, like she said, if you have renal issues, kidney issues, you may need to, monitor the amount that you eat. But other than that, yes, more is better.
It's kind of hard to get enough protein
Mm-hmm.
in the diet. If you're paying attention, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard.
What kind of things do you eat that have protein in it that you try to get protein in your body?
Legumes.
Okay.
And yeah, meat. Chicken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My husband makes fun of how much chicken I eat, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not big on the red meat. The ground beef.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's some, you can do protein drinks, protein, supplements. You want to really look at those, if the list is this long about what's in them. If you can't pronounce the majority of it, it's probably not a good thing for you to have. If sugar is the first ingredient, please stay away from those. A lot of those, they're just trying to add calories because I think people want to see more calories, more protein. But there are some out there that don't have a ton of ingredients, that have sweeteners that, that sugar isn't their first ingredient. So you can look at those.
And collagen. Is that a part of a protein?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, people take collagen because they feel that it, helps their connective tissues and their hair and their nails. I've read, varying different, things about how well it works. But if you get enough protein just in general, you will, have that support in your body and be able to support your connective tissues in your body. So, all right. Any other questions about protein? Okay. Next one is fat. I think fat for a lot of years kind of got a bad rap, right? We were told to stay away from it. We were told, it's bad for you. You shouldn't eat it. It is important that we do have some fat in our diet. It is essential to our systems, and it is, there are different types of fat. So there is saturated fat, there is unsaturated fat, and there are trans fats. All of those, are in a variety of foods. Trans fats are man-made. We take a vegetable oil and we change the chemical composition of it, and those are actually very, very bad for you, and there is no real safe amount for us to eat. So I would recommend that if you're looking at a nutrition label, you see something with trans fat, that might be something that you would want to stay away from. Is something you've talked about? No.
We just can't sell each other.
Yeah. So, yeah, trans fats are in a lot of like processed foods, in like commercially baked foods. Crisco, if you know what Crisco is, that's a trans fat, and so it is more stable. So they can make baked goods and throw them on a shelf versus using a dairy product that they can't do that. So they are in a lot of foods and processed foods that you find on the shelves, all over. I think Oreos was the first one that many years ago that people realized that, oh, there's trans fats in Oreos, and they actually changed their recipe and they're not in there anymore. So,
Or they're hidden. Or they're hidden.
They're hidden.
Other names, right?
So if you look at the label, if it says hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated, that is a trans fat. So if you look at the ingredients. So, yeah. Saturated fats mostly come from animal products, but they also come from coconut oil, palm kernel oil. A lot of times a saturated fat will be solid at room temperature or semi-solid at room temperature. It's kind of a giveaway if you're just looking at something. Not always, but sometimes they are. It is still, important, or we need those saturated fats. It's recommended that we keep it to 10% or less of our total daily calorie intake. And I was reading today about a study about saturated fat and what happened, with the American Heart Association guidelines and just staying away from all the saturated fats, is that we replaced those saturated fats with sugar in a lot of products. So if you think SnackWells, if you guys heard of SnackWells, so there's a lot of sugar in SnackWells, and to make it taste okay and make us want to eat it, they replaced it with sugar, and that is actually more damaging than just eating the saturated fat. So keep that in mind as well. Let me take a look here. Unsaturated, so there's mono and unsaturated fat. So mono are olive oil, avocados, nuts like hazelnuts, almonds, some seeds like pumpkin seeds or sesame seeds. Poly are walnuts, flax, and fish are some examples. Flax, seeds, and fish contain omega-3 fatty acids. Have you guys heard of those? Yeah, and when have you heard about those? Yeah. It's good for just overall inflammation, bringing down inflammation in your body. And so fish is your best source of that. You have to eat quite a bit of flax seeds, and you have to really, a lot of people sprinkle them into things or put them in their smoothies. And if they don't get ground up and you just take them in, you're not going to, be able to absorb it. It's just going to go straight through just in that same state. So if you do choose to eat flax, which it has a great flavor, just make sure that you're chewing them up or grinding them up before you eat them. Okay. Let me see, make sure I'm in here. Like I said, trans fats, there is no safe amount to eat. So I just want to make sure that, again, look at that label. If you see trans fat, you see hydrogenated, it's probably something that we should stay away from. Okay. So next page is a few just pictures of some foods that contain fats. Avocado is a big one that people eat a lot of right now. We put it in a lot of things. It's a great source of fat. It's, they taste amazing. Just, keep in mind, because fat does provide you with 9 grams of fat, or 9 calories per gram, it's twice as much as, per gram as you would get from a protein or a carbohydrate. So while we say to limit fat, volume wise, that's why, but you don't need to limit the calories from fat so much. So, okay. All right. So, questions about fat? Okay.
I don't know if this fits in that category, but when you talk about flax seeds and grinding them up, do chia seeds do the same thing? Do they need to be ground up?
So chia seeds, when you put them into any sort of liquid, they become like a gel. Yeah, I wanted to say gum, and that wasn't it. So yeah, gel. So I don't think that you need to, to grind them up like that, but that kind of activates them is to put them in any sort of liquid. Yeah. And it kind of makes it a little different consistency, and you can make chia seed puddings, things like that are quite tasty. Yeah. So the last page here, I just put on here a balanced diet, but there's just a few little recommendations that just a good place to start. So a balanced diet contains all 3: carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Choose a variety of food sources of each of those, just to be sure that you're getting everything that you need. If you eat the same thing day after day after day, you're probably missing out on some of those called micronutrients. So your vitamins and your minerals, things like that. Okay. You want to eat food in as close to its original form as possible. So what I mean by that is that if you're going to eat a potato, eat the whole potato. Eat it with the skin. That's where you get the fiber. That's where you get a lot of those micronutrients again, versus having a French fry where it's cut up and it's fried and it's altered from that original state. And then limit the amount of added sugars. Really look at your nutrition labels. And again, if they have added sugar to a food, it has to be listed on there as an added sugar. So that's what you're wanting to look for. Okay. Get the recommended amount of fiber each day. We didn't really talk about the recommended amount of fiber each day, but for men age 50 or younger, it's 38 grams, and for women, it's 25 grams. If you're 51 or older, for men, it's 30 grams, and for women, it's 21 grams. And again, that's just a minimum. And you want to make sure that you're getting at least that amount each day. Okay? And then just to steer clear of the trans fats. So, and again, those are just going to be in a lot of processed foods. It'll be, we talked about peanut butter earlier. They add sugar to it, and they also put, palm oil in it to make it so it doesn't separate. Your peanut butter should separate. So you want to make sure the ones that separate are the more natural ones. It's probably just peanut butter or peanuts, or it could be just peanuts and salt, and just, make sure that you're looking for those things. Questions about macros? Any questions about nutrition? I'm happy to answer them.
About sugar substitutes like stevia and erythritol?
So I think that they have their uses. I think that, it's okay to have a little bit in moderation. If you're eating lots and lots of products, you're drinking Diet Coke all day, every day, that's obviously not going to be good for you. If, you use it sparingly here and there, I think that's okay. So.
I would like to throw out there, I've actually seen those two. I've been doing a lot of food sensitivity testing lately on people, and those two have shown up a lot. So I don't think our bodies recognize them. No,
and a lot of times when you eat something that tastes sweet to us, our digestion starts in your mouth, and so your liver thinks, oh, something sweet is coming, and sometimes it kicks out some more insulin. And so even though you're not eating something with sugar in it, it thinks that it is. So anything that's a chemical, that's a foreign substance, it's just not, again, sparingly, it's probably okay, but just in general, it's a big staple in your diet, it might be something that you would want to limit.
Like beet sugar or
monk fruit? So actually the protein powder that I use in those is sweetened with monk fruit. So beet sugar, table sugar it comes from sugar beets. So that's how they make sugar. Monk fruit is very sweet. It's very, you don't have to use as much of it as you would a table sugar. I've looked in the store, and it's often to buy monk fruit is combined with erythritol, and so if you can buy just monk fruit, that might be something that I haven't been able to find it in the store yet. So yeah.
So how about xylitol?
It's all very similar. Yeah.
So it's combined with something else.
So it's an artificial sweetener.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people are very sensitive to, especially like sugar alcohols, and it causes a lot of GI upset. And people don't realize what it is that's causing it. But yeah, I have to steer clear of many of those.
I just started noticing that sugar alcohols
Mm-hmm.
on labels.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? What is a sugar alcohol?
It's just a different type of sweetener. It doesn't have any calories. Our body doesn't recognize it as a carbohydrate, and so, but yeah, definitely your stomach will talk to you.
Irritable bowel patients often have issues with sugar.
Yes, yes.
So I don't know if you heard of the low fat FODMAP diet.
Say that again.
FODMAP. It's a FODMAP. It's a elimination diet for irritable bowel, and it's really eliminating sugar alcohols.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't seen it on a label before.
I think that like about 5 years ago, like it was in a lot of stuff, and then people started to realize how much it was upsetting people's stomachs, and then they started pulling it out. So there's also that fake fat they had at one time that was causing all sorts of bad things for people. So just like I said, eat food and as close to its original form as possible, and that you'll do well.
What about agave syrup? I've heard different things on whether or not that's actually a good substitute.
It's sugar. I actually put a little bit of agave syrup in there as well, and into these protein balls to make them a little bit sweeter. But it's sugar, just like a table sugar. So honey, same thing. Your body uses it all the same. So.
But it'd be better to use agave or honey or maple syrup than
It's all sugar.
all sugar.
It's all sugar.
But it's more natural, right, than
Well, I mean, sugar's natural. Well, yes, sugar's natural. I mean, it comes from sugar beets. So your body uses it all the same. It sees it all as sugar, high fructose corn syrup, honey, agave syrup. The reason to use agave syrup or honey is it, I think, tastes a little bit better. It has a little bit flavor. And so versus like a table sugar. But yeah, your body sees it all the same.
Okay.
Sugar.
Still raises your insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
The same, right? The same.
Mhm.
You hear about
Pretty similar.
Okay.
There are different ranges, but yeah, it's gonna be more than a piece of broccoli or something, which
Mhm.
has sugar, it's carb.
if you're gonna cook with stuff, make something sweet.
Yeah.
Try to go for more closer to the original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, I make, so just for reference, one of my recipes for this makes 60 of those little bites. And I use a quarter cup of agave syrup for all of that. So there's not much. I just, think that it just, makes it taste a little tiny bit better.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, how often are you eating it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're having it just every now and then,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to,
Mhm.
have a little something. But if it's every single day,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it catches up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very few things that I, as a dietitian would say, don't ever eat that. Trans fats, I think that you should stay away from those. I think soda's horrible. But if you're just having a treat every now and then the more you tell yourself I can't have that, I'm never going to have that, the more you're going to want it. So if you allow yourself to have those treats every once in a while, there's nothing wrong with that. What else?
What do you suggest for losing weight? What are some specifics?
So, for losing weight, I mean, calories. I mean, it just reducing calories. If you are, you want to limit the amount of sugar that you are taking in. If you take in a lot of sugar, then, you have a lot of insulin floating around in your body that does not lend itself to, losing weight well. But mostly it's just calories. You have to, watch how many calories that you are taking in every day. And a good place to start with that is somewhere between 20 and 25 calories per kilogram gives you a good starting point. All of this is just kind of a guess. That's, we just have like starting points of where we, we call it assessing a patient. So deciding how many calories they need, how many grams of protein they need, that kind of stuff. That's a good place to start and just see, what that looks like for you and how you feel if you are losing weight on that. To lose 1 pound of fat, it's a 3,500 calorie deficit. If you're trying to lose weight, I wouldn't, if you're losing weight rapidly, you're not just losing fat, you're losing your lean muscle mass, and you don't want to do that. So the slower you can do that, the more healthy it is for you. What else?
I also like to throw in there for the variety is also about feeding the different good types of
Yes.
bacteria in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about like everyone in this room, we all have different preferences for what we want to eat. So do they. So if you're only feeding it the same things every day, then those type of bacteria that like those foods are going to dominate. Versus if you're constantly changing things up, you're going to have a better balance in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard a thing that you should shoot for 30 different plant foods a week. That seems really hard, but that includes like spices and herbs and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so
Oh, see, that's a lot of vegetables.
a lot of vegetables. We try to
But
eat
30 different vegetables.
a lot of vegetables, you know, versus like if you're, you know, I like these, but like, you know, you can down these versus like you put a big thing of salad in you.
That's another thing with,
Slower eating.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Take your time.
Mm-hmm.
The fast food is not just fast to you. You can eat it so fast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
3-4 bites, the whole
Mhm.
thing is gone.
They've done research and studies, and they want you to feel that way. They want you to feel like, you know, you have to have it. They want it to be highly palatable, taste amazing, and, you know, they market their business on that. But, you know, as far as, you know, if you want to go back to losing weight, if you have, you know, 100 calories of something that's very high in fat and high in sugar, it's not going to fill you up for very long. It's not going to be a large amount of food versus if you do have a big plate of, you know, green leafy vegetables and a protein, you know, that'll stay with you longer. You will, you know, it'll be slower to eat. You will be eating longer. Your body will get that message, I'm full before, you know, before you feel sick, you know, so.
It's really easy to down a whole bag of chips,
Mhm.
right? And still be like, I'm hungry.
Mhm.
Let's eat some more.
That's a great start. What
Yeah,
do
it's great appetizing.
Mhm.
What else you got?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's sugar in that too.
Oh yeah.
And the chips and that, yeah. If you read the label, it's crazy.
Mhm.
There's no fiber, right? They can strip that out.
Mhm.
Hey, add sugar to chicken broth.
And almost everything.
Yeah.
So we did just in my house just a few years ago, we went through all of our stuff and I'm like, we're not going to have anything that has added sugar in it. We didn't have anything, you know, like condiments and, you know, salad dressings. And, you know, I just started making my own because I really couldn't find any that didn't. And it's very easy to do. I know it sounds like a lot. I have, you know, 3 kids. They work full time like it, but it's not that hard to do, you know, and just put it in a little jar and put it in the fridge. And, you know, it's unnecessary.
You can always email them to me. If I don't know the answer, I can ask Leah. Or if you have ideas for future talks.
Yes,
like,
please.
That you guys want to hear about.
Mhm.
Maybe we pitched a whole bunch between us. But
Are there things
I'm
that you
sure
know?
guys have other ideas
Yeah.
that you could
Yeah.
bring up. That
Yeah.
others would benefit from.
Where do you pick up food?
So here in Greeley, the State Armory downtown, we rent the kitchen out of there. So on Monday nights from 6 to 8, people can come pick up their foods there. We also drop off in Windsor on Tuesday nights. So
We're at
it's Official Fitness. It's right next to the new Future Legends complex. I don't know if you're aware of where that is. So yeah.
maybe not.
And I should say we do family size meals too. So we have the individual ones, and then we have ones that are 4 portions as well. And there's different options so you can get, you know, if you would like more protein, you can choose that. If you would like a smaller serving of carbohydrate, you can choose that. There's 4 different choices for each meal. And then there's a link on the website that I do nutrition labels for all of them. So you can click on it and you can see what it is before you buy it. So a lot of our foods are gluten-free, but we don't have a gluten-free kitchen, so we can't, and it's shared. Right now we're just working out of like I said, the Armory. It's a commissary kitchen, and so we can't guarantee that something might not get in there. So hopefully one day we'll have our own space and we can do that.